Shalom. This is Deacon DeForest Smith with the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel and the King James Bible University. And today's teaching is titled, Ye Reap What Ye Sow. And we going to get into it. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 through 6, and verse 1. Because all our actions are weighed, and we reap what we sow. The things that we learn, we sow in our hearts, we reap it through our actions. Our actions identify what's in our hearts and what's our desires of what we obtain and sustain in the houses that we've built that's supposed to be for vessels of the Most High and Jehovah to dwell in. But some choose not to hearken unto that voice. So they sow unto vanity. They sow unto false doctrines, and they reap vanities and lies. But as servants and vessels of Jehovah, we have the knowledge of knowing the outcome of every action we make on this journey of life, and we must diligently seek the wisdom needed to produce a fruitful and lively outcome or harvest. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. Trust in the Creator with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. We're not supposed to trust in theology or concordances or anything that's man-made when it comes to the knowledge and wisdom of from above that came from our Creator and our God. But we see in the world that people do trust in themselves, and they trust in men that teach them lies, and they run with it and they reap, and they've sown it in their heart and they reap it all around the world we can see. And verse 6, in all thy ways acknowledge him. And once you acknowledge him, you'll see the vanities, that the darkness that is upon this earth, because he will show you the light. And through that light, you can shine through the darkness. And he shall direct thy paths. Verse 1, my son, forget not my law, my instruction, my direction, my guidance, my wisdom, but let not thine heart keep my commandments. But let thine heart keep my commandments. So we're going to sow those commandments, those instructions, those precepts in our hearts so that we can reap righteousness, his righteousness. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 9 through 15. Furthermore, we have fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father, the Creator of spirits, and live? Because this life is temporary, but our Creator, life with him is eternal, and is peace and joy. Verse 10, for they verily for a few days chasten us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. Those that have sown spiritual things in them, so they can reap the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them, because they exercise, they sown the 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 words, and they hearken to the voice of the Spirit of God, Jehovah. Verse 12, wherefore lift up the hands which hang down and the feeble knees, because this life will wear you out and you'll be a raggedy like a rag doll. But we know our strength comes from the Lord, and we can't lean upon our own understanding, but trust in him. And make straight paths for your feet, for your desires, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way. So through thy precepts, we get understanding and we hate every false way. So we know that if we sow those things into our hearts, we won't be lame and turned out of the way. But let it rather be healed. We're going to be healed by that word. We're going to be clean by the word. It's going to be an ointment to those wounds. Verse 14, follow peace with all men and holiness without which no man shall see, and holiness without which no man shall see the Creator. So these are the things that we should be sowing in our hearts. Look diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of the mercy of Yahweh, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. So we see, on the contrary, it's also another sower that's trying to sow his seed in you, seeds of wickedness. And those things are bitter, and they're evil and wicked, and it defiles your temple. Exodus chapter 3, verse 7 through 10. And those are the things that happens when you're part of the world. You sow things of this world. You learn things of this world that makes your heart bitter, makes your lifestyle troublesome. Verse 7 of Exodus chapter 3. And the Spirit of God said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in confusion, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. And it's funny about that is we've all went through that. We've all cried out one way or another to the Most High to get us out of our situations. And those that sincerely meant it in their hearts and sown that they were miserable and that they were no good, and they knew that it was the chastisement, and that they wanted to get out of that confusion, wanted to get out of that bondage of life. And we've called out to our Creator, and he rescued us with the word. He gave us an out. He gave us a path, a straight path to heal ourselves from that lameness and stand upright and come out of bondage, come out of those hellholes, come out of those places of confusion. that are placed on every corner and highway to get us to sow evilness and vanity in our hearts, so that in the last we will be defiled and no good for our Creator to be used in His kingdom. But we see in verse 8, and I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, out of those servants of sin, and to bring them out of that land unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. So it's going to be hell all around us, but we're going to be covered by that Spirit. Now, therefore, behold, remember the cry of the children, the works of Israel is come unto me. And I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. So don't ever think that the Lord is not watching. He's just waiting on you to get yourself right, to get your situation correct, so you can diligently seek Him and you can start sowing unto Him, and He can reap you in the end. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt, out of confusion. And we know the Lord doesn't change. If we seek Him, He will be found. Psalms 107, verse 1 through 2 and 6 through 9. Oh, give thanks unto the Spirit of God, for He is good, for His mercy endureth forever. Let the redeemed, the saved of the Spirit of God, those that are sowing unto wisdom, say so, whom He hath redeemed from the hand of the enemy. So we have circumcised our heart, and we have tilled the ground, that hard ground, so that we could be the land that He lays His word in, and it is watered by His knowledge, and it is growing and is not stagnant, or the ground is not too hard, so that the plant, the pleasant plant, can grow. And that's what we have to do every day. We have to till our ground, get this knowledge, refuse the things of this world, and rebuke it, so that it won't be sown in our hearts, and we can reap the benefits of the Spirit. We can grow in the Spirit, obtain the knowledge and the wisdom provided through these words that are given to us, so that we can enlighten the rest of the world, those that want to be enlightened and have this knowledge to be saved in the end. Verse 6, or I'm going to go back to verse 2. Let the redeemed of the Spirit of God say so, whom He hath redeemed from the hand of the enemy. Verse 6, then they cried unto the Spirit of God in their trouble, and He delivered them out of their distresses. And He led them forth by the right way, that they might go to a city of habitation. Oh, that men would confess the Spirit of God for His goodness and for His wonderful works, to the children of men. For he satisfieth the longing soul and filleth the hungry soul with goodness. John chapter 3, verse 11 through 13. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, we speak that we do know, because others speak vanity and lies, and testify that we have seen, and ye receive not our witness. If I have told you earthly things, and ye believe not, how shall ye believe if I tell you of heavenly things? Because those things that are heavenly aren't sown into you, that you don't desire. You only desire the things that you can see that are earthly. So you're no good to the Creator. Your vessel is defiled. Your land isn't being fruitfully developed. And no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the servant of men, which is in heaven. And they believe this is a physical man, sowing vanity into their hearts, reaping lies. Because if you sow the spirit, then we know that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of heaven. So we know that no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, which is the word, that almighty word. And we can go to Wisdom of Solomon 18:15. Thine almighty word leap down from heaven out of thy royal throne as a fierce man of war into the midst of a land of destruction. So these are the precepts we need to be sowing in our hearts so we can reap righteousness. Because the only thing righteous is that almighty word that came leap down from heaven, which is supposed to be sown in our hearts. So we won't be a land of destruction. We could be a fruitful land of the living. Romans chapter 9, verse 1. I say the truth in the anointed way. I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the separated body. So this is what should be sown and speaking, reaping through you. Because all men are liars, but the word is truth always. And that's what that almighty word, Jehovah Christ, is. So we say the truth in Christ, not in us, not in our own flesh. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9, verse 18, 1 through 5. For so the ways of them which lived on the earth were reformed, and men were taught the things that are pleasing unto thee, and were saved through wisdom. Not any man's theology, not any traditions of men, but by the wisdom, the almighty word, that word of wisdom that is sent. Verse 1, O God of my fathers and creator of mercy, who has made all things with thy word. and ordained man through thy wisdom, that he should have dominion over the creatures which thou hast made, and order the world according to equity and righteousness, and execute teachings and doctrines with an upright heart. Give me wisdom that sitteth by thy throne, and reject me not from among thy children. For I, thy servant and son of thine handmaid, am a feeble person, and of a short time, and too young for the understanding of teachings and doctrines and laws. For though a man be never so perfect among the children of men, yet if thy wisdom be not with him, that wisdom sown in him, he shall be nothing regarded. And we can go to let's go to verse 9 through 11 of the same chapter, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9. And wisdom was with thee, which knoweth thy works, and was present when thou madest the world, and knew what was acceptable in thy sight, and right in thy commandments. And can we go to John chapter 3, verse 17? And this is the same thing, wisdom. For God sent not his son, his servant, into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. And we see through wisdom, we are saved through wisdom, and wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9, verse 18. For so the ways of them which lived on the earth were reformed, and men were taught the things that are pleasing unto thee, and were saved through wisdom. So we see it's not through Jesus, the man, it's through the spirit of wisdom that was in Christ, that was in Yahushua, the prophet of Israel. So we have to sow these things in our hearts and understand that it's not a man, it's the spirit of God. It's Jehovah that is the word, is the seed that is sown in our hearts that gives us the benefit to reap righteousness if we are watered through the word, through these precepts, get the right water, the right knowledge. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9, verse 10. O send her out of thy holy heavens, and from the thrones of thy glory, that being present, she may labor with me, that I may know what is pleasing unto thee. And we take that and go to John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten servant, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. And you're not going to perish because you're going to be fruitful. You're not going to be a feeble plant that perishes and withers away, but you're going to endure because the eternal spirit and power of might and that almighty word is sown into you that is going to endure forever. Verse 11 of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9, verse 11. For she knoweth and understandeth all things, and she shall lead me soberly in my doings, and preserve me in her power. But they don't believe that. Those that are on the other side of the plumb line. They haven't reaped, they haven't sown these things into their hearts. So they haven't reaped it out. They're not expounding on these principles and on these commandments that we know flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom. So we know that it's all spirit. God is a spirit, and we must worship him in spirit and in truth. John 4:24. So it's nothing about the flesh that is profitable. Um, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8, 5-7, 9, and 13-18. If riches be a possession to be desired in this life, what is richer than wisdom, that worketh all things? So we know as Black people, we love to sow for our riches. We love to sow, plant seeds, and make money any way we can. But what we need to be sowing for is wisdom. Seeking for the kingdom and all those other things will be added, because God knows what we need. He knows we need things to survive. But he's going to give you wisdom first, so that when you do get those things, you'll know how to act with them. Because it's a lot of us Black people out here with money, but we're still fools, and we reap vanity, lies, deceit, all the things of this world. We reap, but it's gonna be our downfall in the end. You can see that. Turn on the TV and you can see that right now. I don't want to name drop, but you'll see it all around. Money is a tool, and it's not uh, a substance of life. Wisdom is a substance of life. This knowledge from above is our substance of life. Verse 6, and if prudence work, who of all that are is a more cunning workman than she? So we gotta work. Faith without works is dead. So we must obtain wisdom to do that work. And if a man love righteousness, her labors are virtues, for she teacheth temperance and prudence, justice and fortitude, which are such things as men can have nothing more profitable in their life. You see there? We'll know how to abstain ourselves from certain things that are upon this earth. Temptations of this world, the lust of the eyes, and the vanities of your mind. Obtain sow wisdom in your heart, and you can refrain from these things. Verse 9, therefore I purpose to take her to me, to live with me, knowing that she will be a counselor of good things and a comfort in cares and grief. Verse 13, moreover, by the means of her I shall obtain immortality and leave behind me an everlasting memorial to them that come after me. Because you're going to instruct those that want to be instructed by the knowledge and wisdom. They going to sow the same things into them. And you're going to leave that memorial of righteousness, which will be forevermore, everlasting. I shall set the people in order, and the nations shall be subject unto me. Horrible tyrants shall be afraid when they do but hear of me. I shall be found good among the multitude and valiant in war. After I am come into mine house, I will repose myself with her. For her conversations have no bitterness. And we seen that earlier. And to live with her have no sorrow, but mirth and joy. Now, when I considered these things in myself to be sown in me, and pondered them in my heart, how that to be allied unto wisdom is immortality, and great pleasure it is to have her friendship, and in the works of her hands are infinite riches, and in the exercise of conference with her, prudence, and in talking with her a good report. I went about seeking her to take her to me. Wisdom of Solomon 9:13 through 17. And the reason why I went about seeking her to take her to me is because I know that without wisdom, I'm regarded as nothing. I am nothing but dry dirt with no seed, with nothing to produce. So what good am I? Verse 13, for what man is he that can know the counsel of Yahweh? Because dust is nothing. We need that water to be watered and tilled. Or who can think what the will of the Lord is? For the thoughts of mortal men are miserable, and our devices are but uncertain. For the corruptible body presseth down the soul, and the earthly tap and the earthly tabernacle weigheth down the mind that museth upon many things. And that's when you don't sow unto to the spirit. And hardly do we guess aright at things that are upon earth. And with labor do we find the things that are before us. But the things that are in heaven, who have searched out? Who can know the counsel? Except we sow the spirit of counsel, which is wisdom, in us. That's the only way. Other than that, we're just dust, hard dust. And thy counsel who have known, except thou give wisdom and send thy Holy Spirit from above. So we need that ground tilt so it could get soft. That dirt won't be so hard. It could be penetrated by the knowledge, the water that can penetrate down into our souls and can nourish that seed that's within us so that we can grow. Psalms 147, verse 19 through 20. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgment, teachings and doctrines unto Israel. So that's that wisdom. That's that almighty word that came down from heaven. Wisdom of Solomon 18:15. Verse 20, he have not dealt so with any nation. And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Spirit of God. And this is the same thing. He showeth his word unto Jacob, It's Matthew chapter 3, verse 16. When wisdom came down, that almighty word, because Yahushua had condemned that dust to dust and rebuilt his temple through the knowledge, came out of that water a new man built upon spirit and not fleshly carnal desires. Matthew 3:16. And Yahushua, when he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water, and lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of Jehovah, our guide, our counselor of wisdom, descending like a dove and lighting upon him. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 1 through 3. So we see he's a man just like us. He had to go through the same things. He had to sow that spirit within him so he could reap the benefits for all of us, to teach us the way back to the Father, that straight and narrow path. Whoso loveth instruction loveth knowledge, but he that hateth reproof is brutish. You reap what you sow. A good man obtaineth favor of the Creator, but a man of wicked devices will he condemn. A man shall not be established by wickedness, but the root of righteousness shall not be moved. Romans 9 through Romans 9, verse 3 through 6. And the reason why that root of righteousness shall not be moved is because God does not change. So there's no way he can be moved. But we are supposed to be moved by him. We change ourselves, so that we can reap his righteousness, the root of his righteousness. Romans chapter 9, verse 3 through 6. For I could wish that myself were accursed from the anointed way for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Yahweh and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom as concerning the flesh the anointed way came, so he can move that flesh and circumcise that heart and condemn that flesh, so you could be rebuilt in the spirit and the newness of newness of the spirit, who is over all. Yahweh has given knowledge forever. Amen. But we know not as though the word of God have taken none effect. That knowledge is not going to penetrate that hard soil, that hard dust. For they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. They are not all fruitful. They are not all lively. They have not all sown to the Spirit. But God, our God is mercy, and he's long suffering to give us this word and give us a chance to sow it, to sow this knowledge, this wisdom in our hearts before it's too late. But those that don't want to hearken, he has a place for those. And they will wither away while in this earth. And they will be destroyed with the earth because they have no substance of life, that wisdom, that seed in them. They rejected the seed, so the seed never grew. You never sown to the seed, so you never reap the benefit of that pleasant plant that is should be that wheat that should be stored in the barn. But instead you sow to the flesh, which reaped tares, which will be burnt in a bundle and thrown into the lake of fire, which will burn forever. Psalms 107, verse 10 through 22. And this is what he came to save us from, that word of wisdom. And if we don't sow it, this is where we're going to be at. Such as sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, being bound in affliction and iron, because they rebelled against the words of Yahweh and contended the counsel of the Most High, that wisdom, they fought against it. Therefore he brought down their heart with labor. They fell down, and there was none to help. Then they cried unto the Spirit of God in their trouble, and he saved them out of their distress, out of their distresses. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death, and break their bands in sunder. Oh, that men would praise the Spirit of God for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. For he hath broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron in sunder. Fools, because of their transgression and because of their iniquities, are afflicted. Their soul abhorreth all manner of meat, and they draw near unto the gates of death. Then they cry unto the Spirit of God in their trouble, and he saveth them out of their distresses. He sent his word and healed them and delivered them from their destructions. Oh, that men would praise the Spirit of God for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men, and let them sacrifice the sacrifice, and let them establish covenants, the sacrifices of thanksgiving, and declare his works in rejoicing. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1 through 3, 6 through 11, and 14 through 20. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Spirit of God thy God hath driven thee. So we should be sowing the remembrance in us so that we can know how to move and maneuver in this life. We know the paths of the wicked and the traps and snares that they have laid for us to stumble and fall upon. But if these things are sown, and if these things are sown upon us, sown up in us, then we know how to abstain from certain doctrines and certain environments, certain festivities that are in life. So the word is come to save us from the vanities of this life. Verse 2, and shall return unto the Spirit of God thy guide, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, that thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul. That then the Spirit of God thy guide will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, whither the Spirit of God thy guide hath scattered thee. So once this information, instructions are sown in us, and we do the first works of righteousness, of remembrance, and start doing things that are pleasing, then he could turn our captivity and gather us like the wheat in the field, because we've sown goodly things and we've reaped righteousness. We have reaped his righteousness, which he is looking for to gather, that thou mayest live. Verse 7, and the Lord and the Spirit of God thy guide will put all these curses upon thine enemies, those tares, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee, and thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Spirit of God, and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day. And the Spirit of God thy guide will make thee plenteous in every work of thine hand, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land for good. For the Spirit of God will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over thy fathers, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which are written in this book of the law, and if thou turn unto the Spirit of God thy guide with all thine heart and with all thy soul. For this commandment which I command thee this day, it is not hidden from thee, neither is it far off. Is it far off? But the word is very nigh. We just have to till that ground and let that the wisdom, this word, this knowledge seep and and nourish that seed that is very nigh unto thee. In thy mouth you will reap it, and in thy heart that thou mayest do it. You're going to reap the benefits of the word that is very nigh unto thee. See, I have set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil. Which one will you sow, and which one will you reap? And that I command thee this day to love the Spirit of God thy guide, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. And the Spirit of God thy guide shall bless thee in the land whither thou goest to possess it. But if thine heart turn away, so you find something else that's pleasing and you start sowing it, so that thou wilt not hear, but shall be drawn away and worship other gods, idols, and serve them. I denounce unto you this day that ye shall surely perish like a withered plant without water, or grass that is not sown to the to the to foundation, and that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land whither thou passes over Jordan to go to possess it. Verse 19, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life. Therefore, sow life, that both thou and thy seed may reap life. So you're gonna reap that thy seed may live. That seed gonna bust open and it's gonna germinate. It's gonna turn into a pleasant plant that will be fruitful, that thou mayest promise the Spirit of God thy guide, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him, for he is thy life. He is the substance. He is the nourishment and the length of thy days, eternity, that thou mayest dwell in the land with which the Spirit of God sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them. Ezra chapter 7, verse 23 through 27. Whatsoever is commanded by the guide of heaven, let it be diligently done for the house of Yahweh of heaven, for the house of the guide of heaven. For why should there be wrath against the realm of the king and his sons? Also, we certify you that touching any of the priests and Levites, singers, porters, Nethinims, or ministers of this house of God, it shall not be lawful to impose toll, tribute, or custom upon them. And thou, Ezra, after the wisdom of thy guide that is in thine hand, set magistrates and judges which may judge all the people that are beyond the river, all such as know the laws of thy guide, and teach ye them that know them not. And whosoever will not do the law of thy guide and the law of the king, that let judgment be executed speedily upon him, whether it be unto death or to banishment or to confiscation of goods or to imprisonment. Blessed be the Creator, the guide of our fathers, which have put such a thing as this in the king's heart, to beautify the house of the Lord which is in Jerusalem. So we see that he reaped goodly things for the people when he sown to the commandments of Yahweh. He understood that we are different than the world and that we have our own traditions and customs that pertain to the wisdom of Yahweh, and that we have to reap, we have to sow to those things and not sow to the things of this world, because we have repercussions and consequences if we do reap to this world. Galatians 6 and 8. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. Jeremiah chapter 17, 5 through 10. And these are the warnings to what we should and what we should not be reaping to, sowing to. Thus says the Spirit of God, cursed be the man that trusteth, that sow in men, and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departeth from the Spirit of God. For he shall be like the heath in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land and not inhabited. Blessed, wisdom and knowledge is given, is the man that trusteth in the Spirit of God, and whose hope the Spirit of God is. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat cometh, but her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit. So we're gonna be worry free, carefree. We just gonna be sowing to the Spirit, and we're gonna be reaping plentiful. We're gonna be abundant with knowledge and wisdom. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? And this is why we need to sow the Spirit of God in our hearts, so that He can, uh, so that the deeds of the flesh can be mortified. Because we can't serve two masters, so we have to clean our temples out and sow goodly things in them instead of deceitful things and wicked things. Verse 10, I, the Lord, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. And we're going to go to Hebrews chapter 6, verse 7 through 12. For the earth which drinketh in the rain, and cometh oft upon it, and bringeth forth herbs meet for them by whom it is dressed, receiveth blessing from Yahweh. But that which beareth thorns and briars is rejected, and is nigh unto cursing, whose end is to be burned. But beloved, promised ones, we are persuaded better things of you, and things that accompany salvation, though we thus speak. For Yahweh is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which ye have showed toward his name, his way, and that ye have ministered to the saints, and do minister. And we desire that every one of you do show the same diligence to the full assurance of hope unto the end, that ye be not slothful, but followers of them who through faith and patience inherit the promises. Ecclesiasticus chapter 11, 17 through 23. The gift of the Creator remaineth with the godly, and his favor bringeth prosperity forever. There is that waxeth rich by his weariness and pinching, and this is the portion of his reward. Whereas he said, I have found rest, and now will eat continually of my goods, and yet he knoweth what time, and yet he knoweth not what time shall come upon him, and that he must leave those things to others and die. Be steadfast in thy covenant, and be conversant therein, and wax old in thy work. Marvel not at the works of sinners, but trust in the Creator, and abide in thy labor. For it is an easy thing in the sight of the Creator all of a sudden to make a poor man rich. Um, the blessings, the blessing of the Creator is in the reward of the godly, and suddenly he maketh his blessing to flourish. Say not, what profit is there of my service, and what good things shall I have hereafter? Psalms 34, chapter 11. Psalms chapter 34, verse 11, verse 2 through 8, and 12 through 22. Come, ye children, hearken unto me. I will teach you the fear of the Creator. I will teach you the desire of the Creator. My soul shall make her boast in the Creator. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. O magnify the Creator with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Creator, and he heard me, and delivered me from all my fears. They looked unto me, they looked unto him, and were lightened, and their faces were not ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Creator heard him, and saved him out of all his troubles. The messenger of the Creator encamped around about them that fear him, and delivereth them. O taste and see that the Creator is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him. What man is he that desireth life, and loveth many days, that he may see good? Keep thy tongue from evil, and thy lips from speaking guile. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry. The face of the Creator is against them that do evil, to cut off the remembrance of them from the earth. The righteous cry, and the Creator heareth, and delivereth them out of all their troubles. The Lord, the Creator, is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Creator delivereth him out of them all. He keepeth all his bones, not one of them is broken. Evil shall slay the wicked, and they that hate the righteous shall be desolate. The Lord redeemeth the soul of his servants, and none of them that trust in him shall be desolate. So I hope you got some understanding and some wisdom from the teaching. Ye reap what ye sow, and we must sow to the Spirit of God so that we can reap abundance and fruitfulness and goodness and eternity. Because if we don't, we shall be desolate, and we will wither and be unfruitful and unprofitable, but nothing more than burning. And I'd like to say shalom and have a good night, day.